From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, December 12th. We have a lot to talk about here in the long-range pattern going forward. I do want to address the front that came through last night because this was something we were I was very adamant about on Twitter. This is exactly how this was going to play out as it moved in, and there was a lot of hype surrounding this as being a big severe weather day with possible tornadoes, and I didn't see it. This isn't just me going against the grain. A lot of people think you just like to go against what everybody else says, and no, it's the official government source is the National Weather Service. They were talking about all of this, and then of course media runs with it. Some media sources, not all, but there was no chance of that. Very little chance for severe thunderstorms, and certainly no chance for tornadoes. But yet it was trying to be spun that there was a chance of that, and I didn't see it. So this is exactly how it worked out. Okay, and this is not a pat in the back moment. This is just to show you that just because we're not the official government source that releases this information to the public doesn't mean we're any less qualified to make these kind of determinations. So hopefully you're able to see that if you were following on my Twitter account, which is right here, EPAWAWX. You can follow along with my thoughts that I'll give on there. This is my personal Twitter, not a company Twitter. So, this is exactly what happened. And I'll give it to you straight. If I don't see it, I don't see it, okay? And it worked out exactly this way. You had that big surge of wind when the front came, that squall line came through, and then you still had winds for about 4 to 6 hours after that continued. So just, yes, they did put up a severe thunderstorm warning over southeast PA and parts of northwestern New Jersey last evening. Just because they issue a warning doesn't mean it's actually severe. And the reports afterwards that came in were showing winds generally in this 40 to 45 mile per hour range with that line. It's not severe. Severe is 58 or more, and we had nothing close to that anywhere. So keep that in mind. Take this severe thunderstorm warnings they issue seriously. I'm not suggesting that, but they're not always. Just because they issue a severe thunderstorm warning doesn't mean there was severe weather. And we analyze that after the fact, of course. So just keep that in mind, okay? Here is the long-range table. It's going to be hard to see because we're getting a little more crammed with things in here this time of year. But the long-range table is on our website in the long-range outlook that we do on Friday. And, we have this near average day today. Then we're kind of slightly above average to above average all the way through about the 18th, okay? We're going to have another surge come through on Thursday, but not quite as warm as the surge we had ahead of the front yesterday, okay? So it'll be above average, but kind of like upper 50s and near 60 for one day on Thursday. So both these warming periods are ahead of cold fronts. Now, in between, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're going to be slightly above average, okay? Lower 50s maybe. And then once we get to 17th, 18th, you're kind of like in that same range, same ballpark. But then we head to slightly below average and alternate slightly above and near to slightly above average for a little bit, okay? So it's not going to be cut and dry. We're going to be a transition week here in between the 19th and Christmas, okay? There might be a little window in there right around the 21st, though, that you could have something wintry come in. And we don't have that listed in our long-range outlook here. We have the cold front that came through yesterday, another weak front coming in Thursday night and Friday morning. That probably doesn't really do too much except lower temperatures for Friday a little bit. And then we have a stronger cold front coming through next Saturday. I don't have the 21st listed on here because the time this was done, it didn't really look like a big signal. But we're going to have to watch that period there, even though winter storm signals are listed between Christmas and New Year's, and again, between the 8th and 12th of January. All right, so there's some possibilities coming up. We have to change the pattern first, and I think we're going to end up doing that. Here is the average snowfall for December. I don't think, unless we get lucky here in that last week of, or maybe even the 21st, it's going to be tough to get these. We have near to slightly below average snowfall for now. This could be adjusted. It could be changed in just one storm if it tracks just right, okay? So we have, again, a thread the needle opportunity, maybe right around the 21st or so. And then you have another opportunity here as we get into that final week between Christmas or day after Christmas and New Year's, okay? So you get some snow yet. And it's not a lot of snow we get. You don't typically get in the month of December, but it did increase significantly from what it was in November. And then we get into January, it nearly doubles. As a matter of fact, it does double in a lot of places. So what average snowfall is, it goes up, okay? And we're expecting in January, actually, near to slightly above average snowfall. So we'll see. So week to week here, we've been going through the La Niña and where we're at, and and the change from the previous week. This is representing a change from the previous week's values. So the values, it's still weak La Niña, but you get a couple of these regions have cooled a little bit more, not much, but between 0.2, 0.4 degrees, something like that, in the mainly the eastern half of that La Niña region. So what does that mean? We have here's our sea surface temperatures and what they look like. And that's this entire region right here, okay? And we talked about this in just about every single Weather Weeklies video we do. This is a basin-wide La Niña, but it's leaning east, okay? So the heaviest or the coolest anomalies are going to be found closer to the Peruvian coast here, east of 120 west. That's where you have your coolest temperatures relative average. This area here, near 180, the international date line, is phase 8, okay? And you see that's very slightly cooler than average, but don't be misled by this. A lot of people are saying, well, the tropical waves can't make it to phase 8 because it's cooler here. Well, it's really not cooler. It's just cooler relative average. These warm sea surface temperatures here are very warm. Don't get that twisted, okay? If you're looking at it from an anomaly standpoint, you're gonna be in trouble, because you can certainly get tropical convection to make it to phase 8 in this setup here. This is not cold, even though it's showing blue here. That's just relative to climatological average, okay? So the temperatures there, and this is the past week here in that same Niña 4 region, which is phase 8, negative 0.7 from normal, at the departure from normal. So it's still bath water out there. Don't get that twisted, okay? So it's still plenty warm for convection to make it east. That's the Madden-Julian oscillation, which we'll get to in a second. But here, looking at our comparable analog in 2017, December 2017, this is December 11th of 2017. Very similar, maybe not weighted as much further east, but you still have a basin-wide event, and the rest of the globe looks pretty similar to what we're dealing with right now. That is really similar, still. So there's no reason to abandon my 2017 analog, at least for the month of December. Now, I'm not trying to suggest this is going to be the analog that carries us straight through March, because these change, all right? At least to start winter, we're in a 2017-ish look, and it probably is going to extend into early January, at least. So we'll see how this transpires going forward. But it might end up being just like 2018. We don't know that yet. See how this evolves over the next couple of months here. So now, Madden-Julian oscillation. We are heading into phase 7 very shortly. We're in phase 6 now. Briefly, we're going to phase 7. We're going to spend some time in there, okay? We're going to spend some time in phase 7 until we get to just before Christmas. And then there is indications that we're going to be moving into phase 8. And that is universally modeled now. This is not something that, well, one model's showing this, so we're just going to run with it. No, that's not how this works. They're all showing it. The European ensemble is doing it a little bit slower than the GEFS, which is why it holds on to that warmth a little bit longer. But phase 7 is a transitional stage in that we have shots of cool air that come in over New England at times, and then your warmth is tied to the southeast ridge and out into all the way back to the Rockies. Okay, so that's where your warmth is. You have some ridging starting to come to Alaska, and we do have ridging coming into Alaska expected in the coming week that is going to change things. And I think that is a large part due to the Madden-Julian oscillation propagation. Okay, so this is tropical convection along the eastern Pacific that is going to drive this pattern. And then once we get into late month, this is the Australian MJO projection, and I use the Australian because it has been leading the charge on this progression here. It's been very, very good. Very good of late here, and it's not a far-fetched thing because Australia is kind of like right in the middle of that maritime continent region, so it can project and pick things up a little bit better, it seems. And it does have this transition through phase 7, which we're going to do up before Christmas, right? And once we reach just before a couple days before Christmas, and then after that going into early January, we're phase 8. It does show a return to the circle of death here in a little loop right around a weak phase 8 signal. Don't be distraught by that, because if you're coming from a phase 8 and then going into this in the circle of death, it's still kind of a phase 8-ish look. If you come into the phase, if you're in a bad phase and then collapse in the circle of death, then that carries over into the circle of death too. And since it's so weak of a signal here at the end of the period, this is early January, first week of January, you're probably still doing phase 8 type stuff at that point. Well, what does phase 8 do? In this configuration, well, this is you got strong ridging into Alaska. You have some blocking coming into play here. Not a lot, but you still have some blocking involved. And the pattern, the Northern Hemisphere pattern, is a negative P&A, which is you don't have the ridge in the western United States. You almost have a bowl effect, a bowl, where it kind of dips down from Washington State, goes all the way down the spine of the Rockies, cuts straight across, just maybe like north of, by the Texas-Oklahoma border, and then heads east-northeast from there toward the mid-Atlantic. That's a big bowl. And on the north of that, you're going to have colder temperatures. So that is very typical of a phase 8 look. And I think we're going to be heading there eventually. Okay. So what I want to do here is take a look at the upper air pattern. Okay. So this is going to get a little technical here. So we're looking at the northern hemisphere as if you were looking over the North Pole, like straight down, down toward the equator. So this is everything above the equator, northern hemisphere, but looking, if you're standing over Earth, looking down at the North Pole up here, this is what you'd see. Okay. And obviously this week coming up, we have ridging here in the eastern United States, which leads us to these warmer temperatures. There was a persistent trough in Alaska over the past, pretty much all of fall, to be quite honest with you. It's been very persistent up there. They had a lot of early snow. That is going to slip down the Rockies here and end up in the western United States as in this upcoming week. Now, today is the 12th. This is looking at the morning of the 15th. All right, so we're obviously ridging here. We get some warmer temperatures. But this is starting to come down the spine of the Rockies here. At the same time, the trough in Alaska is now being replaced with a ridge building into it. Okay, so this is when you have trough conditions, a trough building over Alaska, it is a positive EPO, Eastern Pacific Oscillation. When you have ridging built into it, it's a negative EPO. And that changes things a lot for what our weather is. And here's what the changes are, as I put this on Twitter this week too. The ridging into Alaska here allows this cold to be displaced from where it currently is, and then we start getting shots of it. Kind of right before Christmas, you get a few shots there, but then to get more consistently slightly colder than average, it's going to probably wait till after Christmas to do that. At the same time, you have Ural ridging that could lead to some blocking down the line as we head toward phase 8. And the big thing here with a negative EPO this is a negative EPO look here, by the way, is that you have a cross-polar flow. So the cold air in Siberia and the other, northern Arctic regions can now come down bleed into the United States as it wasn't able to before, okay? So that's a big change. Here's what that change from the EPO looks like. Here it is. This is what we're dealing with now. It's a positive EPO, okay? So you have all this mild across the country, much of the country here, and all the cold air bottled up north. You get the low or trough into the Gulf of Alaska coming up here. In the negative, when you have a ridge building in here, it changes things downstream. See that? Just like I explained here, just by up here by Washington State, cuts down across maybe northern Texas and Oklahoma border, somewhere around there. And then it heads right toward the mid-Atlantic, and all your cold is able to spill down into the United States. But this is more of a bowl effect because the western United States still does not have ridging because this ridge is over Alaska at this point. If you get the negative EPO or the EPO to flip, which has been dominant positive all fall, and then you're going to go to negative more consistently, you're going to get this cross-polar flow going. And that is leads to a pattern change. As we get out here in time, you can see those changes here on the GEFS. This is looking at right just past Christmas here, and you have a defined cross-polar flow going here, and all this is bleeding down. Here's your ridge in Alaska, right? And you get this bowl effect going over the United States. Okay, so it's a big change to what we have right now, and it will allow at least cold air to get here. In order to get snow, you're going to need the cold air here first. Okay, so let's get that there before we start worrying too much about snow. But here's what the loop does. Here's this week with the warmth, right? Then we have a transition week here between Christmas and New Year's. We are kind of up and down. or excuse me, the week leading up to Christmas, but then you get more slightly below average once we get after Christmas. So 19th or thereabout through the 25th, you have some ups and downs, okay? Some cool shots, and then you have maybe it goes up a little bit into the 40s again right before Christmas or right around Christmas or over Christmas. Just after that, you get these slightly below average temperatures coming in here. So with that, here's a look at the 21st, and I'll get this in a second. This is the European ensemble. There's another little sneaky event coming in here. But here's the upper air pattern. I'll just draw where this is. All right, so you have all this, you have a negative P and A with cold here. Here's your trough, kind of goes like this. So anything north of that line is colder. You're getting some coming in here, but it's almost like a bowl effect, where it's not getting all the way deep down to the south here. It's not getting all the way down here, okay? But you have these areas that when you have this bowl effect like this, when it's like this, okay, you have your little areas of low pressure to form along that baroclinic boundary and move toward us. This is going to turn into an overrunning precipitation pattern, okay? So you have, depending on where this low tracks, if it tracks right across the mid-Atlantic, areas north of there could get into a snow event. Areas south of there would be rain. So where this boundary is going to end up being critical, and with time, it's going to keep sagging south a little bit further. You got to remember this time of year where you don't have to have slightly below average temperatures to produce once you get into very late December through at least early February. It's already cold. Normal highs are very cold at that point, and some of the coldest of the year are found during that period. So you don't necessarily need below average temperatures to do it. But, you know, if this tracks, you know, say, I don't know, from eastern Tennessee over to maybe southern Delaware and then off right near the Delmarva, near the benchmark and eastward, you're going to get overrunning precipitation out ahead of that. That could give you some snow on the northern side. So I think that's kind of the pattern we're heading into. Not a big storm necessarily pattern. You can have big storms with overrunning, but overrunning precipitation can give you some, you know, some snow north of that boundary. And it's, you know, warm air overriding colder air at the surface, that kind of thing. So when we're talking about pattern change, I used this graphic last year just to reflect on this. A pattern change refers to significant changes in the North American continent with regards to the 500 millibar height anomalies and the resultant change in temperature patterns. Although chances and probabilities increase during this period, accumulated snowfall is not a metric to define any pattern shift or change. This here that I just showed you, from what we're at now to where we're going to be, is very, very different. Very different. So this is a pattern change coming, all right? And it's most likely after Christmas when it completely settles in. So it's coming. The biggest flip there, obviously, and the biggest part of this is the EPO. Okay, that's your biggest change in this whole thing. Now, here's what we look at for temperatures. Using Lehigh Valley International Airport here as our centermost point of our coverage area as an example, you have we're sitting right here. So you have a near average day today. Then you go kind of slightly above for the next 3. You get this spike here right around the cold front coming through on Thursday and Friday, and then you head down a little bit here. You're still slightly above average here, but you look here, we're back into the 30s again. 20th, 21st, 22nd. This period right in here will have to be watched for possible winter storm as well, because it might be a thread the needle situation. Thread the needle means it's coming in at a time perfectly to coincide with some colder air. After that, 23rd, 24th, 25th, you get a slight warm up here into the lower 40s, and that's peaks on Christmas Day. But still, you know, lower 40s isn't that big. Low to mid 40s isn't a big deal. But then after that, we drop again, and we probably stay consistently colder here the week between Christmas and New Year's. Okay, so here's one of the storm signals on the European model. I'm just going to play this so you can see what you can do here. Rounding that bowl, here's what I'm talking about. Low pressure just moving along that. You have overrunning precipitation north of that track. Now, this is like a day 9 and day 10 look here. I'm not suggesting we're going to have a winter storm there. And we don't even have it in our long-range table just yet. But it's not impossible to have something thread the needle come in this period. So if you're looking for snow before Christmas, kind of cheer on this 20th to 21st period here, because it's going to be coinciding with some cooler air, and depending on where this tracks, you could end up with some snow on the northern side of that track. So we'll continue to follow that one, and there is a little signal here, small one, but there's something there right around the 20th, 21st here on the GFS ensembles. But it's really, once we get between Christmas and New Year's, you see a big jump here. There's one winter storm signal, another big jump here. There's another winter storm signal there. That's between the 8th and 12th. That's our second signal we have. So there are going to be chances going forward we have to change the pattern first. That is going to happen very shortly. Transitioning, don't be fooled by the cooldown on the 19th here, saying, oh, we're pattern change hit. Nope, that's not the pattern change yet. Between the 19th and 25th is a transitional period where we're going from the warm to the cold. And you're going to have times of cold and times of maybe very slightly above average, like I showed in that temperature chart. But then after Christmas and beyond, going into January, I think we're going to be more consistently below average. How long does that last? That's still in question. Still in question. It's going to depend a lot on the Madden-Julian oscillation propagation and where this goes down the line. This runs into early January, still showing it hanging around phase 8 or pretty close to it, or coming out of phase 8 near the circle of death. Either way, this is still a good pattern here at that time from a tropical convection standpoint. So we'll see. We'll see how long it lasts. But let's just get the pattern changed here, and we'll go from there. So this is our My Pocket Meteorologist text alerts and forum here next to on our homepage. This is our homepage, EPAWA.com. Right next to the daily forecast video where it shows every week is you click on this, it'll take you right to the winter weather alerts page. You can sign up for that and get ready because they're coming. The storms are coming. I know so far we haven't had much, but they're coming. So now's the time to get it signed up for that. And also premium forum, we've been already going in model analysis and discussions for several events so far this year. So click on that, and you can get the latest get the text alerts from us and the premium forum for the rest of the winter. You can just click this banner up here, or go to this address too. Either way, it'll take you to the same place. We also have EPAWA merchandise right below the video, and it'll take you to our merchandise store, which we have, hoodies, sweatshirts, that kind of thing, t-shirts, mugs, what have you. So that's where you get that. You can also click for the text alerts right below the video on the Weather Weeklies page. You'll see a link to this too as well. So just to summarize here for this video today, we're continuing to watch the La Niña progression, and right now we're still looking at 2017 being the closest match with sea surface temperatures to current. Doesn't mean it's going to be going that going forward, but it looks like for a time it will. For the next month it will. Snow's going to be non-existent for the next week with an overall warmer than average pattern expected. A transitioning pattern the week of Christmas, that's 19th to 25th, okay? Ups and downs in there. And then a generally colder pattern afterwards with snow chances more prevalent at that time. So we're going to continue to watch these going forward, but don't be listening and entertaining people that are saying winter's over, winter's canceled. I'm not saying we're getting massive storms here, or we're getting a ton of snow. Nobody ever said that. But at the same time, we can start getting into snow, even if they're minor events that add up, whatever. And an overrunning pattern usually does promote that, where you get 3 inches here, 6 inches here, and they add up, okay? So we'll see where we're headed, but it looks like we have a pretty good idea right now. The people that are saying winter cancel, just kind of tune them out for a while, okay? If I get to a point where I see this is just a horrible pattern that's not going to change, and it's not, I don't see it happening. But if it does, I'll be the first to tell you. It is what it is. I don't have any skin in the game. I'm not trying to hype snow or anything like that. I mean, quite honestly, I don't like snow. 45 years old, don't like removing it. I got better things to do. Actually, I have kids who can do that now, but that's something to get them off the PlayStation, right? I'm EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Marchus. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, December 12th. Join us again next week, and we'll give you another update on that at that time, what should be the colder pattern just about to settle in. Take care.